Hello there. Hello, hello, hello. I You won't know this, but I haven't done a video in a while. It's been a couple of weeks. I've been involved in this move from North Carolina to now Washington, D.C. And I got to be honest with you, it was hard. I am tired. I'm very, very tired. I'm tired physically. I'm tired emotionally. I'm even tired spiritually. I'm tired like on all levels. And it's just been one of those times. I'm sure you've all had these times when everything is just hard. You know, the weather here in DC, we had a storm here on the East Coast, and that slowed everything up. And then dealing with the post office and dealing with, there's just moving is hard, but this was especially hard. And I've been talking about self esteem in the last couple of videos, and I started to notice that because of all the things that were happening out there in my life that I had no control over, like the weather, because of all of those things, I started to notice my own self esteem start to slip a little. And I'm normally not somebody that has self esteem issues, but I started to notice that the insecurities that I have started to come up to the surface. You're 53 years old, Michelle, and you're moving again? Why can't you just find somewhere to put down roots and just settle down? Why are you constantly, all the negative stories that that are underneath, if I'm not careful, all of those negative stories started to surface. Here you are doing all this stuff by yourself again. When is this going to end, Michelle? Like, can't you figure your life out? Like, all of that stuff started to come up. That is self-esteem stuff. Those are self-esteem stories. And I started to feel bad about myself because of things that were happening in my life that I had no control over. And I started to notice this connection between our external need for validation, whether that's validation from other people or the validation we get when we accomplish things that has its own inherent validation, right? We feel that dopamine hit when we accomplish a goal or we're able to see ourselves moving forward. And in the last video, I talked about, is your self-esteem only based on external validation or external motivations, or is it also anchored on internal stuff, right? Internal motivators, internal drivers, internal stories that you're telling yourself, authenticity, confidence, purpose, those kinds of things. And again, I'm a type A person. And so because my life was stuck in a lot of ways, and I wasn't getting those external hits, that my internal sense of self-worth started to suffer. And so it was a great reminder for me that we have to be vigilant. We have to be vigilant about how we are thinking and feeling about ourselves. No one is immune from having those times in our lives where our self-esteem starts to take a little nosedive because of things that are going on in our lives. And if we're not careful, those stories can start to run us. Those stories can start to really take up and occupy space in our brains, and that can become our dominant belief about who we are, or our dominant feeling about who we are, how we're doing in our lives, all of that stuff, right? Self-esteem is both the thinking, what we think about ourselves, but how we feel about, or the emotion that comes from the stories that we tell ourselves. And if we're thinking all of these negative, why are you doing this? Why can't you do anything right? Why isn't it, right? Then the feeling those anger, fear, sadness, feelings will start to become our dominant emotional experience and expression, our dominant emotional frequency. And you don't want to go there. And so I really had to coach myself through. I'm an executive coach. I do this for other people. And I had to rely on those skills to coach myself through this very, very challenging period of time. And one of the things that I did that was so incredibly important and really started to move the needle for me was this idea of praising yourself. You have to be really, really good at praising yourself, which just means being a good coach, being a good champion for yourself, patting yourself on the back when you do something, no matter how small. And especially when you are in a period of overwhelm, especially when you're going through something that's really, really difficult and challenging, it becomes especially important that you are noticing and acknowledging and appreciating and praising yourself for all of the little small steps that you are taking forward. If that means doing a couple of emails, you got through a couple of emails, fantastic, great job, Michelle. Keep going. If that means making yourself lunch, great. You're doing great, Michelle. You're taking care of yourself. You're making sure that you got enough to eat. If that means like literally every single small step that you are taking throughout the day, you got to celebrate yourself for it. You got to praise yourself for it out loud. Out loud. I started to look at myself in the mirror. I would take a shower in the morning and I would look at myself in the mirror and I would say, Michelle, you're doing great. You're doing great. I know this is really hard, but every little single step that you're taking, we're going to get through this. I'm not normally somebody who has to do this for myself, but that's how dire things were for me. It was a really, really hard time. Cats were acting up. The weather acting up. Everything got screwed up with the post office. It was just hard. And so, look, if it works, it works. Looking at yourself in the mirror, you're doing great. You deserve good things. You're going to get through this. You will get to the other side of this. This is temporary. This is not permanent. You're doing great. And this is what I did every single day. And slowly but surely, all those little small steps that I took, things started to move forward. And most importantly, I started to feel better about myself. My self-esteem started to improve because I was actively and consciously and intentionally noticing everything that I was doing to move myself forward, and then out loud, vocally saying to myself, you're doing great, Michelle. I'm proud of you, Michelle. So I wanted to share my experience because there's a lot going on right now. And I know so many people are overwhelmed, and that overwhelm can start to erode our self-confidence and our self-esteem if we're not careful. There's this concept called locus of control. And locus of control is really important because when we're feeling overwhelmed, when we're going through really difficult circumstances, it can be very easy for our locus of control to start to become more external. You feel like nothing you do is going to lead to anything good. Nothing you do is going to solve any problems. Nothing you do is going to move yourself forward. You are at the mercy of your circumstances. You're at the mercy of the gods. You're at the mercy of life. And that's an external locus of control. And that is when you start to feel like a victim. That is when you start to feel powerless. And that can very easily turn into victim mentality. Woe is me. Why doesn't anything happen good in my life? Why isn't anything working out for me? And then that can start to turn into a shame spiral. And so I started to see it happen in myself. Like, wow. And again, I'm normally somebody that has pretty high self-esteem. I'm normally somebody that has internal locus of control. I believe that I am in control of my destiny, that the actions that I take in my life are going to lead to the outcomes that I desire. And so I started to see, wow, Michelle, this is a very, very real thing. And so if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling powerless, check in with your locus of control. Are you starting to feel like nothing I do is going to work out? It doesn't matter what I do. It's all going to turn to crap. That's a signal that you've got an external locus of control and you've got to take back your power. And one easy way to do that is to praise every single small win and just keep doing that for as long as you need to. Like I said, I would do it every single day. I'd get out of the shower, look at myself in the mirror. I would put my lotion and my oil on and, girl, you're doing great. I'm so proud of you. And what it does is it forces you to see all of the effort that you're putting into transforming and changing your life and moving yourself forward. And like I said, if it's an email, if it's making yourself lunch, if it's having a conversation, if it's cleaning out your closet, if it's doing your laundry, praise yourself for it. Praise yourself for it. Celebrate yourself for it. I'm proud of you. You're doing great. So that's it for now. Until the next video, I love you so much. And I hope that this video resonates with you. And I'm going to keep on with self-esteem in the next video. All right, take care. Bye.